I'm Mark Unger, producer of Roundtable. Because we find this presentation so special, we really would like for you to see this. Please watch.
Good evening. Welcome to Single Shot at Manhattan Neighborhood Network, the Roundtable. Tonight we will be discussing a question of photography with a purpose. Some claim art and photography including can be just done for the reason of pure art. Some believe that if you create something artistically, it has to be created for a reason. And one of the reasons which is very important and helps humanity in general is photography that makes our world better socially. So to discuss that, we have tonight, as he calls himself a humanitarian with a camera, Ocean Morisset, a photographer with many years of experience photographing. How you describe marginalized groups?
Yeah, marginalized groups are just everyday people.
Everyday people. Well, so the photography with a purpose. What's your purpose when you press the shutter?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on your show, Alex.
And
Appreciate
thanks for
it.
joining us.
Yes. What's my purpose? Well, anytime I go out into the streets or I'm working on a project, my purpose is really to educate, to inform, and most often to change a perception also.
Change of perception.
Yeah.
Basically to create a different outlook at the phenomena.
Yes.
In what way?
Well, you know, a lot of times we sort of judge a book by its cover without knowing all the details. My hope is that through my photography, that where even if it's a single image, that it provides some insight or some sort of clues into the broader picture and educate the viewer.
Oh, I do believe that your series with homeless is probably the most illustrative of this principle. And what I understood from our previous conversation, the main idea is to banish dehumanization of the homeless population of New York. That's the general theme of this series, right?
Yes, well, the LGBT homeless community specifically.
LGBT's homeless community. Well, that's definitely the most marginalized community you can imagine, I would say.
Sure, yeah.
Challenged by society in several ways.
Yes.
And your photography is done with a specific purpose of creating a different, probably positive image for the community to tell the people who probably never personally interacted with them that they perceive them wrongly.
Yeah, that they perceive them wrongly. My goal is to sort of show them as anybody else. There's nothing, yes, they're homeless. While they're homeless, that there should be nothing else that would create a stigma, that would stigmatize them. There's nothing different. They're humans, just like you and I,
Absolutely.
except that their circumstances have, caused them to be homeless. And that circumstance really is the fact that they're either lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender.
So this is connected to one to another in the life stories of those individuals who was photographing you. Did you interact with them besides just taking a picture? Or?
Yeah, well, the project with the homeless LGBT youth, I've been working with an organization in New York City called the Ali Forney Center. They're the largest organization in the country that deals with LGBT youth homelessness. They serve up to 1,400 clients a year. They serve about 70,000 meals. and now they're just growing exponentially. And a lot of these kids become homeless simply because of who they are, and that's unfortunate.
It's definitely unexcusable, and unfortunately that's what our society have to deal with, and I totally understand where you're coming from when you devoted your talent and time for this project. But as I know that you have a different project related to LGBT community, but not specifically homeless. What is the reason, what is the purpose behind that one?
Similar in that to sort of show the LGBT community in a positive light, showing how they love, showing how they live, you know, to change the perception, to change the stereotypes. That's what my aim is with a lot of my photography, is to have people think about these subjects in a different way.
Well, I do understand this idea, but your street photography, does it also work in this direction, or it's something separate? I know that you also have a huge collection of just very New York, very flavorous street photography.
Yeah, I mean, I photograph a lot on the subways. You might have seen that work
Positive, I did.
on the streets of New York City. Yeah, so I train my eye mostly on people who would otherwise go unnoticed, in the same way that a person may walk down the street and not look at a crack on the ground. I want to bring these people, these subjects to life, and to show them in a positive light, once again.
That's actually pretty remarkable, because your street photography indeed makes these individuals to look like a very special individual, not an average, unnoticeable one. So
yeah, and everybody in my view is unique, is special in that way, special enough certainly to be photographed,
positively.
to be immortalized forever.
Well, it's in a way Schrödinger photography. If they wasn't photographed, they wouldn't be known.
Right.
They wouldn't exist.
They wouldn't
in a way.
Right. So I'm sort of, you know, yeah, bringing these subjects to life and to light.
So if you would look at it from a philosophical point of view, that's probably the biggest change photographer in general can bring into the world, to make something to exist in a world of photography where it never existed before. Even though right now we live in a world where everybody being photographed probably 10 times a day, if not 100 times a day, but still there is a difference between just a snapshot without a purpose and some mechanized capture, or something that was done with a reflection to it and understanding of the purpose of the photo.
Yes. Yeah, in that vein, I think I mostly consider myself a concerned photographer. And I think it was the photographer Cornell Kappa who first coined that term, concerned photographer. And really it's just sort of being interested, photographers who are interested in social and political issues and photographing them. And that's certainly a lot of what I do. And I also photograph protests and social movements throughout New York City. So I think I certainly fall into that category. It's that humanness that I enjoy, that humanity that keeps and photographing these subjects keeps me connected to humanity in a very real way, and that you know, it's very personal, it's very intimate. I have to get close to my subjects. That's my preferred style. I don't use a zoom lens. I'm like as close as you and I are when I'm photographing. So it keeps me connected to humanity. It keeps me feeling alive and connected in a way that I don't think I would be otherwise.
Oh. Every time we speak with a street photographer, I'm trying in one or other way ask this question. How your subjects reacting on you photographing them, especially from such a close distance and probably spontaneously, at least your shots does look spontaneous.
Yes, all my photographs are candid on the street. I don't engage my subjects, I don't speak to them. They're all fleeting moments. The moment is there, I capture it, and it's gone in that next second. No one I better knock on wood or knock on something, just because no one has ever seen me or said anything. I've never had a street confrontation. I've heard about those photographers who have gotten into confrontations on the street. That's never happened to me. I'm very discreet, very stealthy in my approach, and I just take the picture and I'm out of there. I want to respect the moment. I want to preserve the moment, but authenticity is important to me, which is why I don't pose my subjects. I don't speak to them, mostly because once I engage them, I'm going to get something different. I'm not going to get the authentic moment. They're going to give me what they want to give me, as opposed to allowing me to capture something.
They will show you their own perception of themselves instead of genuine person.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Well, we actually never talked about it before on the show. It's actually an interesting question. Hypothetically, if somebody who you photographed will ask you to delete the picture and you believe it's a very good picture, and in New York you're legally not required to do that,
Right.
what would be your reaction?
I would delete it.
You would?
I would delete it. I would, because it's all about intentions for me. When I'm out photographing, I'm out, my intentions are good. They're to capture something, they're to show beauty, they're to show a side of the subject that other people don't see. So if someone wants me to delete it, and that happens to be the Pulitzer Prize winning photo, I'll delete it.
All right, we'll get back to it after the break.
All right.
Welcome to Single Trick by Single Shot. It's a beautiful weather here in New York, perfect for outdoors photography. However, when you photograph in a lighting like this, there is always one problem. Objects on the ground, like myself right now, are much darker than a sky. Most of you would say HDR is a solution. Yes, it is. However, there is a simpler, very old trick, the gradient filters. It's a completely analog way to make your sky to be even in amount of light with your land. Even simple gray one will give you a lot, but besides that, you can use a blue one and make the sky to actually have more blue color in it. You can use sepia and make a day to look closer to the sunset lighting, and even something as crazy as bright mauve color. The trick is to have gradient right in the middle of the lens.
Alrighty, so we're back from break, and we was discussing photography with a purpose in terms of revealing injustices of our society and changing our perspective on those groups. But I know that you have a series that are more life celebrating than actually talking about pressing but pretty horrible subjects in the society, and one of them is actually photographing dads with their kids, African-American dads with their children.
Yes.
And the idea, if I remember correctly, is to change the perspective of this completely unfair stereotype of African-American dads not staying with their children, not being in their family.
Correct. Yeah, I've been shooting that series, which I call Dad Duty. I guess it's been about 5 years now. And again, it's candid street photography. So all those rules of street photography apply in terms of capturing the moment. But yeah, I wanted to do that project because I got tired of every time I turned on the TV or read something in the media that they would portray these black men as pariahs, as the cause for all of the social ills, and mentioning the fact that they're absent from their child's life, which I know is not the case. So I set out to go out and photograph because, like anything else, you know, when you're teaching somebody or showing them, you want to present facts, you want to present literature, you want to present something that shows the reality of the situation. So this is where my photography comes into play, because anytime I photograph the subject and I share it, it's sort of illuminating this issue and changing the perception that people have. Because here it is, how can you say that black men do not take care of their children when here I have all these images showing you that they do, that, you know.
No, absolutely.
And you know.
As a side note, the name of the series is very ironic, because all the subjects of your photography in this series I've seen, they actually seem to be most of the time happy and at least content with it. They don't feel it as being a duty, they feel it as being part of the life joy.
Correct. Why I chose that name, I don't know.
Well,
but
it adds a grain of salt to this.
Yeah, most people are accustomed to seeing the child with the mother. So dad duty, it's not, you're right, it's not necessarily a duty, it's they love to be with their children, but it takes on a whole other sort of connotation when the father's with their child, taking them to school or at the playground or what have you.
Well, I wasn't saying it in a negative way, don't get
No,
me wrong. I
no, I
was actually
understand.
trying to say that that actually comes very well in connotation of the whole purpose of the series.
Right, I understand.
Well, and as I understand, this series was created just as a personal project, not commissioned like the previous ones.
Correct. This is a personal project. I just set out to go out and do it on my own. I have a lot of personal projects, you know, and that's what keeps me going with photography also, is to just shoot. And I don't start out saying I'm going to shoot this project. I start shooting images, and suddenly a body of work begins to emerge. So that's what happened with the Dad Duty project.
I know exactly how it happens.
Mhm.
So what is your longest going project?
Probably the LGBT community at this point. I've been photographing the LGBT community since 2005. And I started photography in 2001.
Oh,
Yeah,
16 years, 17 years already.
yeah. So, and how I got into photography, somebody just gave me a camera and I just started taking pictures.
Oh, I
I'm completely
can relate
self-taught.
to that as well.
Yeah.
My very first shoot was actually done with borrowed camera.
Ah, okay.
So there is another subject that is another project you mentioned before to me that is also talking about the concept of love in life, and it's probably the most personal this project can get. I'm talking about your self-portrait cancer series, and you mentioned that you was working on this project not just artistically, but also in a way therapeutically.
Yes.
So what was the therapeutic part?
Well, so in 2011, I was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's essentially a blood cancer. And 2 weeks after I got the diagnosis, I had to start chemotherapy. So there wasn't much time to prepare or plan or think or what have you. But I started the project, the self-portrait project, as a means, as therapy, because while I was receiving the chemo was being administered to me for the hope of a cure, but I still needed to heal in the process. To me, the two are not the same. Healing and the cure is two different things.
Absolutely.
I needed to engage in something because cancer is so unpredictable. There's so much uncertainty with it. I didn't know if I was going to live or die. But what I did know is that I needed to engage in something that I loved and that I knew I did well, because that would keep me going. And that was the therapy part, is to continue doing something that I love and not be a victim to cancer.
Well, this is definitely a very noble pursuit, and the results of the just astonishing. I really, when I've seen them for the first time, I had no words.
Yeah.
So,
It's surreal now thinking about it. Now I'm in complete remission, and every time I look at the photographs, I'm astonished because I can't believe that that I went through it and I did it with such dignity and grace, and by using photography as a mechanism, as a tool for healing. So it was very good for me and for others, because as I shared on social media, the images, people all over the world were contacting me and saying, "Oh my goodness, thank you for sharing this." I never realized how much people felt shame by facing a health challenge, and by
Absolutely,
by
yeah.
being so public with my own battle with cancer, it gave others permission to share their own battles.
Oh, that's completely new angle I didn't hear you mentioning before, and it's really important. And this is the example of this visible, concrete changing of the world. It actually did help people in deep need of help in that moment in their life.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if I may ask a couple of technical questions, as I understand, those images was produced using long exposures, right?
Yes, a lot of them, the images were focusing on my spirit, getting acquainted with my ancestral spirit. So I used long exposures and movement. Most of those images were taken right after a chemo session. So I was very nauseous, very tired, very weak, but I pushed through. I used the photography to help give me a boost. And a lot of it had to do with the spiritual realm.
Oh, they do have a spiritual undertones to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, what other projects would be related to the concept of love in life? Because this is really illuminating and a really life-changing part of what I've seen out of your work.
Thanks. Well, I do photograph love, actually. I photograph a lot of couples on the subways, in the streets, so people engaged and showing love.
I've seen those. They are really beautiful. So we will get back after this brief pause.
Sure.
And I will have a question to you.
Okay.
Single shot with Ocean Morisset is reaching its end, and in the end we traditionally asking our guest to share a piece of his wisdom with our viewers. And in this case I want to ask you a very interesting question. Often in your series you're photographing individuals in very unfortunate condition who already have it very tough, and for some of them picture being taken of them is kind of an unpleasant experience and something that could add a little bit to their condition, especially if this picture is displayed. How you maintain the dignity of your photographic subjects and making sure that it will affect them only positively. Because I do believe that this is very important for you as well, right?
Right. Yes. Well, I think it all comes down to the photographer's intention, my intention. As I said earlier, my intention is simply to educate, to illuminate, to bring to light, and to show the positive aspects of whatever community or whatever person that I'm photographing. So, for example, if there's a homeless person sitting on the floor begging for money, I'm not going to photograph that. One, it's sort of a cliche to photograph a homeless person, but also I may just change my position or change my frame or wait until they smile, until I see them doing something that's outside of the norm of what people would expect a homeless person to be doing. So I guess that's my answer. Very quite simply, is really it comes down to the intentions, and my intentions are always good. I'm not out there to sort of make a mockery of my subjects or demean them in any way. I just want to present them in the best light possible.
So yeah, that's actually probably is a main ingredient of your recipe. The intentions that being sensed by the subject, and we all subconsciously already trained to understand how we're gonna look on a photo, at least to a degree.
Right. Correct.
So they're probably visualizing what this picture would look like, and it already makes them to feel differently about it.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's what separates. That's what makes my photography sort of stand out, I guess, in some ways, because across the board, all of my photography is really just about presenting these subjects in the best light.
Presenting subjects in the best light. Well, it's exactly what I believe art should do. Make this world a better place, one art piece at a time.
Yes.
So thank you very much, Ocean. It was very inspiring and utmost pleasant.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
I hope you found that worth watching as much as I did. I'm Mark Unger for Roundtable. Thanks for watching.